Everyone, committee members, staff, TDLR, thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate that. I'd like to call this meeting to order, the Driver Training and Traffic Safety Advisory Committee meeting. Today is October the 21st, and it is 10:03 a.m. in the morning. Before I do the roll call, I just want to remind everyone, if you can, make sure that you're muted until it's time for you to speak, or if you want to speak, of course, unmute and then go back. There's a lot of feedback, so we want to make sure that we take care of that. I really appreciate that. Let's go ahead and do roll call first. And you know what, before we do roll call, I'd like to introduce our new committee member, Mary Lloyd. She's representing the Department of Public Safety. If you don't mind, hi Mary, how are you today?
Good morning, I'm good, thank you.
Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being part of this committee. Mary, if you don't mind, I'm always curious, the background. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I've been with the Department of Public Safety for 24 years. The majority of that time has been in driver license division, front end and back end. I've worked in driver license offices as well as behind the scenes at headquarters doing the back end processes of that. And that's basically it about me. I'm just a person.
Thank you, Mary, so much. It's wonderful to have you. Welcome.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Rick,
Let's
if I may interrupt, I have emailed back and forth with Mary quite a few times. She's always been so helpful. So she's a good one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. How about that? Thank you so much. Let's take care of some business. If y'all don't mind, let's do roll call. And I'm going to ask Delia to take care of roll call for us to establish if we have a quorum. Thank you. Delia?
Yes, thank you. Mary Lloyd?
Here.
Glenn Winningham? Can you unmute your mic, please?
Here.
Nina Joe Saint?
Here.
Carlos Reina?
Here.
Samuel Knapp?
Virtually.
Michael Kelly?
Here.
Victoria Barroso?
Here.
Reginald Thomas?
Here.
David Bruce?
Here.
Ricardo Benavides, presiding officer.
I'm present. Thank you.
And we have a quorum.
Fantastic. We do have a quorum. Thank you, Delia, so much. We'll move on to agenda number C. As you all know, every once in a while, I think just about every year, we have this training. And it's appropriate because we have a new member. I'm going to recognize Mary Winston to present our training, which is our next thing on the agenda. Mary.
Good morning, everyone. Mary Winston, TDLR. And presiding officer, this is going to be just a refresher before we turn things over to Mark Gladney, our general counsel for agenda item D. This refresher is just going to be about video conferencing and having meetings through this different platform. This is also a refresher for everyone and sort of an introduction for Ms. Lloyd. This meeting is being conducted by video conference and the public is watching via live stream. Persons who signed up to make public comment will have a chance to do so later in the meeting, if we have those who actually sign up. The meeting is being recorded, will be available on our YouTube channel. Here are some tips to have a successful meeting. Please keep your microphones muted until you'd like to speak. Put all phones on silent and turn off all other sources of noise in your workspace. If at all possible, avoid too much fidgeting because it draws the camera right to you, no matter who's presenting. State your video feed. The presiding officer will call on you This platform does have a chat feature, a raise hand feature, but those are not being utilized. They are actually they've been disabled because we have folks in the background. We have Mr. Benavides presiding over the meeting. Something may be lost. So we're going elementary school style and raising our hand to be acknowledged. The roll call vote will be done today. So if everything is up for a vote, Delia will simply call roll and we'll get votes that way. It just eliminates sound coming from everywhere, and we're in these Brady Bunch boxes, and we don't want to miss anyone. If you have any problems connecting during the meeting, try to let the presiding officer know. And we have staff here working in the office and externally to assist with connectivity issues. Please stay on the camera during the meeting, even if you're not. If you get inadvertently disconnected from the meeting, please rejoin using the same link that you used to initially join. This is a new tidbit that I've added recently, but I know I really don't have to say for this group. Please, if anyone is in a vehicle during this meeting, do not drive. It's for your safety, and it just gives me almost a heart attack when I see that. So, but I know since this is our drivers, our driver trainers, that we won't have to deal with that today, but I do have to put that out there because we have unfortunately seen it in the past. Everyone's safe, but we want to make sure no one is driving. We've had a lot of these now. I don't even know the number, but using this medium, there have been some awkward moments, and that's okay. We just reset, we take a recess if necessary, and we adjust. We go through every agenda item and we take care of everything we need to act on. Thank you, everyone, for being here today virtually. And we appreciate all of the work you do for the citizens of Texas and for your field. Thank you, Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Mary, so much for that little mini training. Appreciate it. Our next item on the agenda is training for advisory committee members. I will recognize now Mark Gladden. Mark, how are you?
I'm pretty good. Thank you for asking. How are all of you? I hope you all have been safe.
Fantastic.
Okay. For the record, my name is Mark Gladney, TDLR, Assistant General Counsel, and today I'm here to present training, our annual training for the advisory committee on 3 acts that are going to be very important to the operation of this committee over this coming year. And I'm going to first, I want to introduce another Assistant General Counsel that's been assigned to this program, Derek Burkhalter. Derek, can you kind of show yourself and say hi to everybody?
Yes, hi, I'm Derek Burkhalter, Assistant General Counsel, and I'm kind of Mark's backup on this program. I've been with TDLR about 2.5 years, and I was with DPS for 5 years before that. So hello to all of you, and it's good to be with you.
Thank you very much, Derek. Okay, I am going to try to use this technology and share my screen for the presentation. And can everybody see it right now? Can everybody see that?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay. All righty. Well, I'm going to start. Today's training is going to cover three pieces of legislation: the Open Meetings Act, the Administrative Procedures Act, and the Public Information Act. Now, this is by no means going to be an exhaustive treatise on those 3 acts. They are huge, and there's a lot of nuances to them. This is just going to be a review for those of you that want a more detailed overview on these 3 acts. The Attorney General's Office has a great video on open meetings and on the Public Information Act, and I certainly invite y'all to go and take a look at that. At the end of the video, you'll also get a certificate. It's very nice, suitable for framing. With the holidays coming up, it might be a nice little conversation piece. So if you want to, go on over there and take a look at that video. Now, we're going to start with the Open Meetings Act. The purpose of the Open Meetings Act is to ensure open and transparent government. And you're going to hear that a lot during the course of this presentation. The idea is to place sunshine on the work that we do in this committee so that the public knows exactly what it is that we're doing, why we're doing it, and they also have an opportunity to participate if they will, if they want to, and we may even have some of that going on today in the form of public comment. The Act requires means of governmental bodies to be open to the public. This is open, and preceded by notice of the time, place, and subject matter of the meeting, which we have done. We have to follow this Act, and the Act is to be liberally construed in favor of open government. Now, in order for the Open Meetings Act to activate, we have to have a quorum. And it's one of the reasons why we took roll call today. And a quorum is a majority of the members of the advisory committee as fixed by rule or statute. In this case, we have 11 members. Okay? And it takes a quorum of the committee to take an official action. If less than a quorum meets, then the committee may have discussion, but it may not take any official action. And we've certainly had situations like that. Most notably, this past December, we met and we didn't have a quorum, but we did have discussion, but no official action was taken. Deliberation or discussion simply means verbal or written exchange among a quorum of the committee or between a quorum of the committee and another person concerning an issue within the jurisdiction of the governmental body. So it has to be something that the DES Advisory Committee has jurisdiction and authority over. A meeting occurs anytime that a quorum of the committee engages in deliberation regarding public business or public policy over which the governmental body has supervision or control, or at any time y'all take formal action. Now, there has to be notice, and the Act requires advance notice of the date, time, place, and subject for each meeting. And we also provide this notice in the form of an agenda, which you have in front of you. And that notice must be filed with the Secretary of State at least 7 days before the meeting and has to be posted online on our website at the Secretary of State. Now, this is an important aspect, and we'll probably repeat it a couple of times during this presentation. The committee may not engage in discussions about a subject that is not included on the agenda. The agenda is your roadmap. It is the roadmap that you are to stick to. The four corners of that agenda is what we are going to talk about in any noticed meeting. And it's part of General Counsel's job to make sure that we nudge you back on the reservation in the event that some of you decide to talk about something that's not specifically posted on the agenda. So that's really important. Stay on topic, stay within the confines of the agenda. Now, we get this question a lot, with regard to the Open Meetings Act. What if we happen to be at social functions or conventions or workshops? Can we meet together in a amount larger than a quorum without violating the Open Meetings Act? And the answer is yes. You are free to engage in conversation that's incidental to the event that you're attending. However, the discussion will be subject to the Open Meetings Act if a quorum of members is involved and the members engage in a discussion or make decisions about committee business or take formal action. So, important for y'all to remember, always be aware of a situation occurring outside of a properly noticed meeting in which a quorum of the members is present or engaged in discussion. Do not engage in any substantive conversations relating to committee business or policy when there's a quorum around and you are outside of officially noticed and scheduled meeting. Whatever you want to talk about and there's a quorum of you, the best thing to do is do it in a properly noticed meeting in front of the camera. And beware the walking quorum. So what is a walking quorum, you ask? A walking quorum occurs when fewer than a quorum of members engage in a discussion about official business and then talk about those discussions to other members. So while fewer than a quorum of the members participate in the initial communication, the subsequent communication with the other members will result in a quorum discussing official business outside of a public meeting. So the example, in this case, we have an 11-member advisory board. So let's say that 4 members exchange calls and emails expressing thoughts on an upcoming rule change. And then they exchange that research that they've had individually performed on the issue. And then one of the 4 goes and talks about the exchange to another member, and then another member. At that point, you're at 6. That's a quorum. Now you've engaged in a walking quorum by engaging in a small group discussion outside a properly noticed board meeting. That's a no-no. So please do not do that. Walking quorums can occur in these particular settings. Now, one of the big ones that you need to be careful about is social media, Twitter, Facebook, instant messaging, especially if you have a Twitter following and some of the board members are some of your followers, and you start putting board business posts on your Twitter or Facebook, you can engage in a walking quorum that way. So please do not do that. So here are the best practices to avoid a walking quorum. You should not meet in small groups, discuss board or committee business, and then communicate those discussions to other members. You must not send emails or text messages to a quorum of members regarding official business, even if you individually address the email to each member. Do not create posts on social media about board business where there is a likelihood that a quorum of members could participate in the discussion. And do not ask a quorum of members, even on an individual basis, for feedback or comments on committee business outside of the public meeting. This is polling. Once again, we don't want you to do any of these things. And you're essentially conducting an informal vote on the issue. So please do not do that. Again, as a reminder, the committee is limited to discussing specific items on the agenda. Please stay on point. During the public comment portion of the meeting, and we'll have that today, members of the public will be given an opportunity to speak, and the presiding officer may set time limits. Well, we usually set between 2 and 3 minutes. A member of the public who's engaging in public comment may raise a subject that has not been included in the agenda. However, you cannot discuss the subject, but what you can do is you can always place it on an agenda for a future meeting if it's something that really raises your curiosity or is of great interest to you. You can certainly do that. So here are some more best practices. Again, please limit your discussions to the specific agenda items on the posting. Please avoid discussions that wander off into new issues that have been not noticed to the public. And that happens from time to time, but that's what Derek and I are here for, is basically nudge you back onto the road. So please stick to the agenda. Do not respond or discuss issues that are raised during public comment, even if it is something that really interests you. Again, you always have the option to put it on a future agenda, and you can talk about it as much as you want once it's on the agenda. And you should specifically identify items for future agendas and communicate those to TDLR staff. We're happy to put those items on the agenda for you. Now, with any law, there are sometimes penalties that are associated with it. We have civil remedies that are associated with violations of the Open Meetings Act, as you see here. But more importantly, there are criminal penalties attached to the Open Meetings Act. And I'd like to turn your attention to members who knowingly participate in a walking quorum or knowingly participate in a meeting that is closed to the public are subject to criminal penalties. And those criminal penalties can be a fine up to $500 confinement in county jail for up to 6 months, or both. Now, this is not likely to happen. I have not ever heard of this happening, but remember, we do live in strange times, and you never can tell. So I would hate for something like this to come up and 5-0 comes knocking on your door over something like this. We don't want to see that happen. So please remember the do's and don'ts associated with what you can and cannot do with regard to the Open Meetings Act. Again, avoid communications that involve a quorum of board members outside of a noticed meeting regarding official business, and confine discussions to those items specifically posted on the agenda. Okay. Now, if you want to know extra information about the Open Meetings Act, here are some resources for you. You can go and check those things out. I highly recommend the OAG training video, and their Open Meetings handbook is superb. If you want to see the statute, it's Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. And again, if you have any questions, there's our number down there at the bottom for the General Counsel's office. We're happy to respond to you. If you need to contact us by email, for me, it'd be mark.gladney@tdlr.texas.gov. And same thing for Derek, except you put Derek.Burkhalter in there. Now we're moving on to the Administrative Procedures Act. The purpose of this act is to establish minimum standards of uniform practice and procedure for state agencies, and provide public participation and transparency during the rulemaking process. Again, that word transparency comes up. The public has a right to know what we are doing, and this Administrative Procedure Act is one large way in which we can keep the public informed and involved, especially in the rulemaking process. So that's what the APA is all about. Now, what is a rule? A rule is a statement of general applicability made by a state agency that implements, interprets, or prescribes law or policy, or describes a procedure or practice requirements of a state agency. So a rule, in short, is going to interpret a statute. And that's how we do our rulemakings. Now, a rule excludes a statement regarding only the internal management or organization of a state agency and not affecting private rights or procedure. A rule can include a brand new rule, an amendment to an existing rule, or a repeal of an existing rule. And these are the ways in which rulemakings come about. Generally speaking, our rulemakings are from legislative changes and advisory boards. But we also do have a 4-year rule review that's required by statute, and we will talk about that a little bit later on. And occasionally, members of the public come with a petition for a rulemaking. So these are the main sources where we commonly get rulemaking projects started. Now, for a rule petition, any interested person can petition the agency requesting the adoption of a rule. And who is an interested person? A Texas resident, business entity located in Texas, a governmental subdivision in Texas, or a public or private organization that's not a state agency, but is located in Texas. Now, here's the rulemaking process that we commonly go through. Somebody comes up with an idea for a rule, and we start drafting it. Staff does. There's an internal review and analysis of the proposed rules. Those proposed rules go for review by the governor's office, and then we have the first advisory board meeting. In fact, today we have some rules on the agenda that we will be talking about as part of this rulemaking process. After the first advisory board meeting, we usually ask for your authorization to publish them in the Texas Register, and members of the public will have 30 days to submit comment. After, and we'll have a second, the proposed rules will be published in the Texas Register. As I said, 30-day comment period. We review the public comments, and then we have a second advisory board meeting. Not always, but we commonly do. Then the proposed rules are adopted by the commission after we get the blessing from the advisory board in the second meeting. And once they're adopted, the adoption notice is filed in and published in the Texas Register, and then there's an effective date for the rules to take effect. Now, I was talking about the rule review process. By statute, we have all of our programs on a 4-year schedule. We review our rules to determine whether or not they continue to be effective and necessary. So we will file a notice of intent to review. The public has 30 days to provide comment. Our office at GC will review the comments and make a recommendation to the commission. The commission will review the rule filing and comments, and they may readopt the rule. The advisory board will be presenting any comments and may recommend changes. But that's what we do every 4 years to make sure that our rules continue to be effective and continue to do the job that they're intended to do. And here are some resources related to the APA, which you are certainly free to take advantage of. And again, if there's any questions on that, General Counsel's office number is right down there at the bottom. Now, lastly, we are going to deal with the Public Information Act, okay? And the Public Information Act, or also known as the Open Records Act, is intended to allow access to information about the affairs of government and the official acts of public officials and employees. The Act makes all documents, records, and other information relating to official business open to the public with some exceptions. And there's a lot of exceptions, but we're not going to go into all of them. Now, public information includes any electronic communication created, transmitted, received, or maintained on any device if it is in connection with official business. Now, you'll notice that we underlined the word any, and especially any device. And the reason for that is folks sometimes like to use their own personal computers or cell phones, things of that nature, to store information related to official business. We would counsel against y'all doing that, but we understand that sometimes that happens. So we just want, General Counsel's office just wants you to know that we do get an open records request, your personal devices may be subject to having, things disclosed. Now, we're not saying your personal stuff, but we think I think a good rule of thumb is generally, please don't use your personal devices for official business, and then you don't really have to worry about it if we come and ask you for some information, or if you have any information on a open records request that we got. So please don't use your personal devices for official business if you can help it at all. Now, we receive, once we receive an open records request, we will contact you if need be, and we'll ask you to forward any information that you have that's germane to the open records request to our open records team in the General Counsel's office. If you do get a request from us, we ask you to respond very quickly, because we only have a limited amount of time in which we can respond to the open records request. In fact, TDLR must respond to the request as soon as possible, but not later than 10 business days after receiving an open records request from the public. We can't ask anybody why they want those records. We can only ask for clarifications. So if you get one of those kind of requests from us, please move on it toot sweet. Now, the general rule is that there's a presumption of openness. Once again, this is the sunshine and transparency policy that the Open Records Act engenders, and is meant to make clear to the general public. Now, but certain information is required to be redacted from open records, and as I said, there's a large amount of exceptions, but some of the examples are date of birth, some email addresses, certain educational documents, HIPAA information, and any information that's subject to the Texas Medical Records Privacy Act. And lastly, here are the resources that you can certainly look at if you wish. Again, the OAG has some excellent information that you can use. And if you want to see the statute, please refer to Chapter 552 of the Government Code. Again, General Counsel's number is right down there, and you're free to contact either myself or Derek at any time. The best way to contact us, I think, is by the email addresses that I gave you previously. We will get back to you as soon as possible if you have any questions or problems. That concludes the presentation, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mark, so much. I really appreciate it. It's always a great refresher. All right. Mark, you don't mind, I guess, can you remove the little presentation from the screen? I think we're all still seeing it.
That's what I'm trying to do right now.
No problem.
Oh, here we go.
I think we can move forward here. Thank you.
There you
Awesome. Go. Thank you, sir, very much. I appreciate that. Anybody have any questions before we move on to the next agenda item? TDLR staff committee members?
I do.
Yes, Carlos. I'm sorry, my apologies. I saw Carlos raise his hand, but you know what, Kevin, go ahead. You have your mic on first.
I mean, everything was great, Mark, until you came to us and said we couldn't put any information on our personal stuff. I don't know of any of us who keep just a computer for TDL&R. Does anybody? I mean, that's going to be a tough one.
Well, I didn't say you couldn't keep it. I just kind of advise against it if at all possible.
Okay.
So Mary Winston here, TDLR. That was Mark's helpful advice, but correct. You all do not have TDLR issued devices to work with. So best case scenario, you just not throw away that money, but spend extra money and set aside a device. Not necessary, but the awareness that Mark has brought to us today, particularly, I think you said, Mark, something about the popo coming to our door. So, we'll remember that and we will be extra careful.
And again, that's not anything that I've ever seen happen before. It was just mainly to get your attention at how serious the legislature looks at violations of the Open Meetings Act. And I've never seen something like that happen. But y'all know we live in crazy times right now. So just be careful. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you, Kevin, Mark, and Mary. I really appreciate that. Carlos, I recognize you.
Yes.
One other thing, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
One other thing. If you are going to keep some official business records on your own personal devices, store them separately from your personal files.
Thank you, Mark. Absolutely. Carlos.
Yes, Carlos Reina. Just for the record, what is the official number for this for a quorum for this advisory committee?
It's an 11-member board, so that would be 6 of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it just has to be the majority. So 6 would be a majority. Awesome. Great question. Thank you so much. Our next item is the approval of the minutes from July the 22nd. Before we move to approve those minutes, I hope, committee members, that you've had an opportunity to look at our minutes from the last meeting that we had. And I ask now if anybody has any questions or comments before we make that move to approve them. Anybody at all, any committee members that might have a question? Yes, Kevin, go right ahead.
No, I'd like to move that we approve them.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Kevin. Anybody would like to second that?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Glenn. I appreciate that. Delia, we have Kevin making the first motion and Glenn Whittingham making the second motion. Fantastic. Well, because of the virtual meeting, I guess, Delia, you'll do your little tally of the votes by one as
Yes,
we
sir.
do it differently. Thank you, Delia.
Thank you. Mary Lloyd?
Mary, we're approving the minutes, so it would be you either oppose or you approve the minutes from the last meeting. You weren't a part of that, so I don't know if you had an opportunity to look at our meetings.
I did. I approve.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much.
Glenn Winningham,
Approve.
Sam Webb,
Approve.
Nina Joe Saint,
Approve.
Carlos Reina,
Approve.
Michael Kelly,
Approve.
Kevin Knapp,
Aye.
Victoria Barroso,
I approve.
Reginald Thomas,
Approve.
David Bruce,
Approve.
and Ricardo Benavides, presiding officer.
I approve.
Motion passes.
Motion does pass. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Delia. Thank you, committee members. Our next item is the public comment, and I don't think we have any new ones other than the email, Delia, that was sent to us. Okay, so there is no public comment this time. We were sent an email and we've looked at it. Members, I hope you've had an opportunity to look at it. We won't make a comment because we can't. And so we'll move on to our next item. Before I move on to the staff reports item, agenda item G, committee members, any questions, anything at all that you'd like to cover before we move on to the staff reports? Anybody have any comments or questions? Fantastic. At this point, I'd like to recognize Chloe for the licensing division. And by the way, Chloe, I don't know why I noticed the last name change.
Oh, it's good morning, presiding officers Benavides and board members. Yes, sir. It's always been Waylon. I just had to make a change with the office.
Everybody said, hey, your last name changed. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's always been Waylon.
Thank you, Chloe, so much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's so good to see everybody, and glad to know that you're being safe. Going on to the licensing report for personnel updates, we lost a team member. She was able to gain some new employment with new opportunities. So we just blessed her and hope she's doing very well on her new journey. So on our next item would be statistics reports for the new fiscal year that began on September 1st. So for driver education instructors, we have issued 13 new licenses and 163 renewals. For driver safety instructors, we have 2 new licenses and 45 new renewals. For the DAP program instructors, we've issued 1 new license, 2 new renewals. And for our specialized instructors, there hasn't been any renewals or new instructors. And that concludes my report. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much for the report, Chloe.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. I can't really see any hands right now, but I'm assuming.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
do have a question.
Yes, go right ahead. My apologies. I'm unable to see the rest of the pictures. Chloe, can you remove the or were we going to leave it on there? Delia, you have it on, I think. You want to just leave it on? I can't see hands, that's why. So I guess if you want to just talk, just chime in. I really appreciate that. Go right ahead. Was that Mary? Nina, my apologies.
Yes.
That was Nina.
Nina Saint, yes, Chloe. How's the progress being made on getting the backlog of renewals and new instructors cleared off?
We have no backlog for the new instructor applications. We are processing about 32 renewal applications right now.
Has there been any thought? I know you send out the renewal application 60 days, and
Yes, ma'am.
it doesn't appear that's long enough to get them timely. Is there any thought to sending them out 90 days in advance so we can get them to you sooner?
Yes, ma'am. We have already are in the works of making that change now.
Very good, because my last 2 I've sent them out the day I got them,
Mhm.
and I haven't got them. I finally got one of them renewed, and the other one's still pending, and it's been within that 60-day timeline. So that would be beneficial. Thank you.
Sure. If Nina, if you will email me the one that you're needing, I can go ahead and email it to you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chloe, so much. I recognize Carlos Reina.
Yes, Chloe, Carlos Reina here. Has there been any further talk or just, discussion about being able to renew online? The form is just a simple check off box and we could pay it with a credit card. And I think it would just save a whole bunch of paperwork shuffle back and forth if we could do that.
Yes, Carlos, to address your question, we, in our new licensing system that we're working on now, you will be able to do that online. In the current database that we have right now, we're not able to do that. But you'll definitely be able to do it in the new licensing system.
Thank God. I hope I live long enough. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Chloe, so much. Anybody else?
Yes, please.
Yes, I recognize you, Kevin. Go right ahead.
Chloe, is that the same for the renewal for schools as well, or just for instructors as far as being online?
I'm sure it's going to be for both, and Shan can address that as well when she comes for her report. But I'm sure for the whole program, it will be in all of that will be in the new licensing system.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Kevin. Chloe, anyone else before we move on to our next one? Thank you so much, Chloe, for the great presentation. I'm going to move on to agenda item G2 and recognize Tuan. He is with the Customer Service Division. Hey, Tuan, how are you? Tuan, are you still there?
Yes.
All right, can't see you. There you are.
All right. So let me just make sure. Yep. So hopefully everyone can see me. So good morning, advisory board members. My name is Tuan Nguyen. I'm the customer service manager for this program. So just want to give y'all an overall update. So our peak stats for this past fiscal year was definitely in June, July, and August. We had about 3,200 contacts in June, 3,000 contacts in July, and then it lowered a little bit in August to 2,600. Mute that just in case. And overall, what people were calling in about and emailing us about was mainly about the Parent Talk program. And then the second highest amount of contacts was related to the renewals and application statuses. Other than that, I'll be happy to answer any questions y'all have for me.
Thank you, Tuan. Anybody at all? I don't see any hands, but chime in because I'm not able to see everyone. All right, if not, we'll move on to the next one. Tuan, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Very kind. Our next item is G3. It's the Enforcement Division. I recognize Tony Reed.
My neighbor is cutting their grass. Am I audible?
Yeah, you sound fantastic.
Okay. My name is Tony Reed. I am a prosecutor in the Enforcement Division, and I have our staff report, starting with personnel updates. On March 1st, John Medlock was promoted to chief prosecutor. He's been with TDLR for 7 years. Trevor Thielen was promoted to senior prosecutor to fill John's slot. He's worked for TDLR for 9 years as a prosecutor. We're going to hold on Jackie Revilla. Debbie Hawkins was promoted to legal assistant supervisor. She's been with us for 8 years. We've had some retirements. On August 31st, the investigations manager, Greg Dodson, retired after 22 years. He managed 42 investigators. The legal assistant manager, Daryl Kuntz, retired after 18 years with TDLR. He oversaw 33 legal assistants and administrative assistants. The reason we held on Jackie Revilla is that she very recently was promoted to take Daryl's position. So she is the new legal assistant manager in charge of all the legal assistants. And senior investigator Esmer Argio retired after 21 years with TDLR. As far as our statistics go, we've got the DES program side by side with overall TDLR to kind of give you a little bit of comparison. We closed more cases than we opened. We still have 46 pending. We have some old cases that are dragging down the numbers a little bit. As far as the source of cases, this program, because education and advanced examination gets so much information, they open a lot of departmental reports. The outcome of cases, we had 8 default orders. This is where a notice of alleged violation is sent and the respondent does not respond. We can only have a default order when we have proof of service by certified mail. Agreed orders come about when there is a notice of alleged violation and TDLR and the respondent come to an agreement on what the penalty will be. Our collection looks a little down. A lot of that is one case that I'll talk about. We had 82 informally resolved cases. Informal resolution is either closing a case because a violation didn't occur, or there's not sufficient evidence to prove in court that a violation occurred. And it's also warning letters. TDLR is very interested in protecting consumers, ensuring good drivers, which is what you're interested in, and we're interested in compliance rather than excessive penalties. So when the prosecutor determines that a warning letter will do the trick, then we go with the warning letter. Now, the alleged violations at opening, this is what intake classifies a case as based solely on the complaint. So it can change. And again, sometimes we determine there was no violation. The violations we had resulting in disciplinary action, if you'll scoot up a little bit, were mostly unlicensed activity. We're concerned about unlicensed activity. Now, the cases that I've highlighted here, the first 4 were all agreed orders on cases of expired licenses. The class penalty, it's a Class C penalty, which in the penalty matrix the prosecutors go by, can be $250 to $750 penalty. The range here was $125 to $375. The final case was a default order. The respondent failed to answer 5 notices of alleged violation. We had to send 5 because the different entities had different license numbers. The penalty was $2,300. It has not been paid. We have been unable to get the respondent to talk to us in any way. We tried to subpoena the school records so that they would be available, and we couldn't serve the subpoena. No one answered. That's the report. What questions do you have for me?
Thank you so much, Tony. Fantastic report. I really appreciate that. First of all, I want to congratulate those that were promoted at TDLR. I want to thank those for their service that retired as well. And also, Tony, I'm glad that we're getting these specific on your report. I know that the industry always wants to see, the violations, what were they for? So it's fantastic work for those of you that have worked hard on that. I really appreciate that. Any questions from the advisory members? Anybody have any comments for Mr. Reed? Can't really see hands. So yes, Reggie?
Yeah, this is Reginald Thomas. How do you determine the severity of the penalty? I've noticed that every one of the driving safety schools had different penalty prices. So how is that determined? Thank you.
The prosecutor looks at in the case, let's take expired licenses, looks at how long it was expired, looks at the disciplinary history of the school, looks at how many certificates were issued, and the investigator always interviews the respondent, so we get a sense of whether this is willful or unintentional, and that all goes into the determination. And again, we have to stay in the penalty range, which for this is 250 to 750.
Thank you, Tony.
Did that answer your question, sir?
It did. Thank you so much.
Thank you both. I appreciate that. Any other comments or questions for Mr. Reed before we move on?
Mr. Winningham, a question real quick, sir.
Yes,
if you don't mind.
Glenn.
On that last default order from December, Tony, and this may not be a good question, but is that school, to you guys' knowledge, still operating even though you haven't been able to get in touch with them? Or, how long does that go on for? I guess answer the first part first, if they're still operating or not.
No, they're not still operating.
Okay.
We've confirmed that.
Okay. That's all. That's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Yeah, that's why we wanted to subpoena the records so that we could, the students would have, someone would have their files, but we weren't able to.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Thank you so much, everyone else. We'll move on to our next item on the agenda. It's item 4, Education and Examination Division. Shanisty, how are you today?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. It's great seeing all of you. So you guys were presented with E&E stats. I did want to let you guys know that we did receive a lot more emails in fiscal year 20. That's because of the issues with COVID. And we were receiving a lot of emails and phone calls from our customers. They're very concerned. They needed guidance and things like that. What I really wanted to speak about is some changes in projects that we were working on that involved your industry. The driver education and safety rules have been updated as of September 1st, sorry. If you guys can please go to the rules, read up on them. There's been a lot of changes. My staff has updated the driver education and safety main page. There is a section for legislative updates, and this gives you a list of important rules that changed and that would, important rules that have changed that would affect your industry. The forms have been updated and are being posted to the website. The fees have changed. Most of the forms have been posted. Some of them may still be in that process. Okay. And we also cleaned up the frequently asked questions. They're very lengthy. We tried to remove a lot of them, especially ones that could be found in rule or with the application. I did want to let you guys know that we had 7 schools closed due to COVID. That was pretty sad. And we worked with each of those schools. We tried to help them out. They needed some guidance on what they should do when they did close and how they would be able to reopen when the time came. And that's all that I have.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Shaughnessy. Anybody have any questions for Shaughnessy? Anybody?
Yes, Carlos Reina.
Yes, Carlos, go right ahead.
Yeah, it's honestly, can you give me a general estimate of how long is it taking, let's say, for a school, driver education school, submit their renewal application to the point where the license is issued? Any idea?
The Education Examination Division is not, we are not experiencing a backlog. So from the time that we do receive an application, of course, applications are processed in the order that they are received. Is about, I would say, between 2 to 3 weeks once we get it in-house.
Okay, and I know you all have a PO box that you can send to, but you can also, let's say, have it delivered commercially to your main address.
Unfortunately, our main address is not open yet. That information is on the main TDLR page under the contact page. So we're keeping that updated. They will need to send that to the PO box
Okay, but commercial delivery usually can't deliver to PO box.
I can double check that. I just know that we are not allowing customers in coming downtown to the office to drop off the applications.
All right. Well, the only reason I asked is because, you know, the application is so important, and if things get misplaced in the mail and so forth, you send original documents, and it's really hard to get new bonds and declaration pages for auto insurance and things like that. So that's why I'm just saying it's much safer. I know I'd feel more comfortable having it hand delivered, but they can't deliver to a PO box.
Correct. Let me just double check about the FedEx. I do know that we are receiving, or that we have received customer emails and phone calls where they're checking on a payment that they sent through FedEx. Maybe it's just we're not accepting actual customers to come and drop off mail. But again, let me just double check that, please.
Yeah, if you can just check on that, and if you can let us know before we close, but if not, an email would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Chansey. Appreciate it. Anybody else?
Shannon.
Yeah, everyone may know this, but this is Glenn Winningham. You can send USPS priority overnight trackable to PO boxes.
What is that called, Glenn?
It's the USPS, United States Postal Service. They have their priority mail. They have a priority overnight or 2-day options, and those and they're trackable, and those can deliver to PO boxes.
Oh, great! Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Great info, Glenn. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Mr. Chairman. Shan, just a quick follow-up that I was asking Chloe. Are you planning on allowing for online for the school?
Yes, that we would love that. We want all of it to be online. So yes.
Okay, that'd be great.
Fantastic. Thank you. Any more comments before we move on to the next item? Thank you so much, Shanice. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys, and I will find out that information for you and let you know for sure, okay?
Thank you. We appreciate that. Thank you. Our next item is agenda number G5. That's the Field Inspection Division, and I recognize Ron at this time. Good morning, Ron. Are you there, Ron, for us? Let's see. Hey, Ron, can't hear you. You need to unmute. That's okay. We might want to come back. You want to try talking there, Ron? I know we heard you earlier. Just unmute if you can, right on the bottom. There you go.
Can you hear me? Yeah, sorry
Absolutely.
about that. I'm multitasking. I'm using my phone and I forgot to unmute the screen. Thank you very much.
A little louder, Ron, if you don't mind, sir, so we can hear you. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and board members. My name is Ron Gerke and I'm Region Manager for Field Inspections. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. As you can see on our statistics, we were doing well in the first and second quarter of 2020 and started off very well in March, and then COVID hit and we suspended on-site inspections on March 17th, which did affect our inspection numbers up through August, where it's starting to tick up again. And our current projects, as I mentioned, we suspended operations in March. We did start to re-enter the field in June. We did conduct essential inspections such as pre-inspections and initial inspections for driver education schools. And after distributing our PPE, personal protective equipment, and providing safety training, the inspectors started those essential on-site inspections. While we continue to monitor the risk levels associated with the locations, such as in the north, we have Dallas, which is still very high in COVID, and we're unable to go into to conduct on-site inspections. We are able to do what we instituted in May and have gone across most programs is virtual inspections. They have been successful. They've been pretty well received by our Texas citizens, which allows us to do the inspection. Several people have appreciated that, to where we can go out and do the inspection virtually without bringing another person onto the site. And so far, so good. And that pretty much wraps up my field inspections report. Thank you very much. If anyone has any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Ron, so much. Committee members? Anybody have a question or comment for Ron? We'll move on to this next agenda.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go right ahead.
Yeah, Nina Saint. Yes, and we had a move our school location, and we had a virtual inspection, and I will let everyone know that went very well. It was quite interesting walking around, showing the building, the vehicles, and all the things that needed to be inspected on a cell phone. But there wasn't any problem with it, and it worked out quite well. Thank you so much for doing that.
That's great.
Thank you, ma'am.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We're going to move on to this next item, and then we're going to pause for a break after this one, just for those of you that need to take a break. The next item is the executive office. Now, usually Brian Francis, our deputy director, comes in, but I believe that we have David Gonzalez, a deputy executive director, that's going to be filling in. David, how are you today, sir?
Doing well. Good morning, Presiding Officer Benavides and board members. You said I'm David Gonzalez. I am one of 3 deputy executive directors. You may recall that we helped Brian Francis, and so I'm filling in for him today and providing the executive report. So I'm going to start with the COVID-19 update. The last meeting, we informed you of our external and internal responses to COVID-19. So today is just a brief update on kind of our roller coaster ride. I will tell you that the safety of our staff and the public that we serve still remain prominent in our thoughts and actions. So everything that we do, we're still trying to focus on making sure we keep everybody safe. We are learning as we go, as with the rest of the nation, as the science comes in, as the reports come in on what we should be doing and how we should be doing it. We're trying to take heed of all those things and dealing with the personal situations of each one of our employees as well. We are hopeful that our external response via the COVID-19 main page and that website information that we provide is still accomplishing our goal of communicating with the public and our customers. If there's anything y'all can offer as far as constructive criticism or the public can offer, we're open to that. But the Department of State Health Services, the governor's executive orders, all the local government jurisdictions, as we get updates, we are pushing out the information via that webpage off of our main page. As we reported last time for our internal response, we initiated a work from home initiative in mid-March, and we've continued that flexibility for our staff for those positions that are able to work from home. Not every position is able to do that. So we have frontline staff that actually still have to come into the office to take care of their work, finance in particular, to open that mail so that we keep up with that incoming mail. Our licensing division staff as well, many of them are having to come to the office. So they're on the front lines, and we have not been immune to the effects of COVID. So we've had to continue with rotating schedules, PPE, isolating workspaces, social distancing, all those things. So we're wrestling with these challenges, but doing, I think, a great job. Again, kudos to all of our staff, in particular our IT staff, that keep this kind of communications open with our employees so we can get the work done. We've actually taken staff surveys, just to let you know, on the associated challenges that they are experiencing, whether it's taking care of family members, homeschooling, and how it incorporates with our expectations of their workloads. And that's going to be incorporated as part of our return to office transition plan, which is an ongoing plan. We're close to 25% of staff, depending on which division you're looking at, working from the office. But again, moving cautiously to update that and move forward higher numbers. We're actually being pretty productive working from home. So, and it's actually very productive working from home. So we want to make sure that we're keeping everybody safe while we're getting the work done. Any questions related to COVID-19 response? All right. With hearing no questions, I'll get to the strategic plan update. So as previously conveyed, strategic planning is a state mandated process, and we do it every 2 years, and we usually travel around the state. We did our presentation virtually, and we came up with our game plan. That's how Brian likes to refer to it, as our game plan. So if you read any document about our agency, about what we're planning to do for the next couple years, this is the document to read. Some of the best ideas actually come from the public that we serve. A couple of significant goals listed in our strat plan is to implement whatever comes out of sunset, which is significant, and it also includes our continued efforts to streamline processes and reduce regulatory burden. It's that desire to streamline processes that has us pursuing an updated licensing system. You heard it in some of the reports prior. And important to that process is our legislative appropriations request. We just recently filed that. The previous biennium for phase 1 of our new licensing system, we got approved for funding, and it's going to incorporate some of our larger, higher volume programs. It's got the cosmetology, barber, electricians, and massage programs. So that'll take care of a huge portion of our workloads and help to streamline those things, and it frees up staff to work on some of the other programs. We will be looking for phase 2 funding in the next biennium, and it will allow us to bring all the remaining programs, including driver education safety and all those online features that y'all are talking about, that y'all are wanting. Believe me, the staff want them just as much as you do, because it will help with our processing and tracking mechanisms to make sure that we're doing our best to process applications and give y'all the service that y'all deserve. So that's an update on strategic plan. Any questions related to that? All right. So our Sunset Commission in response. Last time I updated you on the Sunset report. So this isn't news to you. Issue number 4 is probably going to be of most interest to y'all. We provided a response, and we conveyed to you that there's an opportunity for public comment. That is still ongoing on their website. And so if you go to www.sunset.texas.gov, that availability is still there. I know some of y'all have already taken the opportunity to comment. I also expected by now we would have told y'all that we had our public hearings. In fact, we had some September already scheduled. Those got postponed. And so we do not have a rescheduled hearing date at this time. As soon as we find out, I promise we will push it out to the public. I will tell you that the Sunset Commission was wrestling with how they might field the public input, especially for the amount of programs that we have. So I think they're trying to gauge how they would do it. An example of what they might accommodate can be viewed actually on the House of Representatives website. They've actually held a sunset hearing for the Texas Department of Agriculture and a few other agencies, and it was a blended meeting that allowed for both virtual, like we're doing now, and in-person testimony. So I suspect that the Sunset Commission is working on how they're going to do that with the volume programs that we have to make sure to accommodate everybody, but you'd have to keep up with their webpage to be sure of that. Again, scheduled sometime between now and January is what they have on their website. But again, we'll keep you abreast as we find out more and give you any details that we find out on how they're actually going to conduct the hearings. It was really well done for the programs that they did it for. Just don't know yet exactly how it's going to work for us. As you know, their report will ultimately be reviewed by the Sunset Commission, the 5 senators, 5 representatives, and 2 public members who can decide to take up all, some, or none of their recommendations. And then it could go into a bill and be filed. Are there any questions related to the Sunset progress and status report? All right. Ms. Delia, would you mind putting up the communication outreach statistics for me, please? So as conveyed, we use our webpage to push out as much information as possible. From April 15th through October 15th, the driver education safety website had 2,931,985 views. That's a significant amount of traffic, and that's a good thing. That means something's working there. It doesn't mean we can't do better, but something's working, and we've had an average of 15,935 per day in visitations. 47% of those visitors access the site from a desktop computer, while 51% did so from a smartphone and 2% from a tablet. The top reasons for visiting the site: parent-taught driver education, search for a course, school, or instructor, frequently asked questions, forums and publications, and instructor development and continuing education course listings. Now that will conclude my report. If there's any questions you have related to anything that I've presented to you, just let me know.
Fantastic. Thank you, David. Members, before we take a break, any questions at all? All right. Well, on behalf of all the members and myself, I wanted to thank every TDLR for the staff report. You guys do a great job, and we love hearing all the details, all the goodies. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. At this time, before we move on to agenda item H, I'd like to take a little recess unless no one is interested in taking a break. We can move on. We really don't have that much time, but I figured it'd be a good time. Raise your hand if you'd be okay with a 10-minute break. Anybody? Okay, so we have some. Let's go ahead and do that, you guys. You know what? We're gonna do 9-minute break right now. Okay, we're officially doing 9 minutes, and then we'll just come back. I'm actually just gonna, don't disconnect, by the way, please. Just kind of turn off video or something. Thank you. We'll see you in 10 minutes, 9 minutes. Thank you. call this meeting back to order. It is 11:29, Delia. So we're back, and before we move on to agenda item H, I know that Shanesty went back, did her thing, and she's got some response in regards to what we had asked her for. Shanesty, take it away.
Okay, thank you. I just want to say thank you to TDLR staff for helping me with this. I really, really appreciate it. What you're looking at right now is the TDLR's contact information page, okay? On this page, it gives you the customer service email address, customer service contact information. It gives TDLR's mailing address, our phone numbers, as well as our Facebook, Twitter, physical location. Now, if you see the pink box, we do have this posted, and it was posted at the beginning of COVID, and it just says the customer service lobby at 920 Colorado Street will not be accepting visitors at this time and will be closed to the public. Okay, so this would mean like instructors, anybody who wants to just come in and drop off an application, they will not be able to do so right now. They can mail the application into our office, but our purchasing division does accept overnight deliveries at the EOT, and this is for commercial mail delivery from the commercial mail delivery companies only. So if you all would like to, or if anybody wants to send anything FedEx or US Postal, they can send it that way. Did that answer your question, Carlos?
Where is that address for that, to send it that way? Okay, that one right there. All right, so
it has to be a physical location for, like, let's say Lone Star or FedEx. They can't deliver to PO boxes. So what is that address?
That address is the TDLR physical address, 920 Colorado, Austin, Texas, 78701.
Fantastic. So then they can send out overnight packages using a commercial service. Thank you so much.
Right. You're welcome. Have a great week, guys.
Thank you
very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Any comments or questions before we move on to our last or one of the last items?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I'd like to have a question for Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes, go right ahead, Nina.
Yes, Mr. Gonzalez should mention that Sunset is looking to have a meeting for TDLR's process between now and December.
Their website actually says now in January, September to January, I think is what's actually listed. As soon as we find out, we'll let you know, but we haven't been told of a date as at this time.
And I just looked at their website and mine says no meeting scheduled, but I'll take your word on that. Do you know how much weight they're going to give to public comment if they have it in January? And I mean, finally the bill after January gets a very high number. Normally they file it a lot sooner than that. They start coming out mid-November.
I do understand your concerns. Legislative session is just around the corner. So we have similar concerns. We were prepared for September and having those meetings and discussions, whether it was virtual or in person. So I expect they're having some challenges. We are going to be finding out the information along with you on what their final plans are as far as giving weight to it. The best guidance I can give to you is watching that Texas Department of Agriculture one that they did. That one was very professionally done. We were impressed. In fact, we may steal a few ideas on how they performed that one because it had the virtual and in-person testimony, but I can't guarantee that's how it's going to look for the larger programs with the multiple public testimony options.
Right, and I did. I'm always curious to how processes work. I monitored y'all before we ever got moved, so
I should have known. I should have known better. Nina.
But and I know it was mentioned during that meeting that TDLR is has a large entity, and also there's another one that got held out of that also. My concern is, and I don't know if you're the person to answer, probably Sunset's better is, the weight they're going to give to public testimony and the concern of the industry of some of the recommendations when bill writing is taking place right at the moment.
They are going to be the best people to direct your comments to, and I know. I think I recall seeing your name already up there as soon as it was available. So I don't know if they limited you to just one public comment or if you can do several. So maybe that question could be raised with the Sunset Commission staff. I think that would be appropriate because right now we're waiting just as you are.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Sorry, couldn't have been more help.
Not a problem. Just wanted it mentioned. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Nina, so much. Thank you, David. Anyone else? Committee members, anybody else have a comment or question? We're going to move on to agenda item H. This is a discussion and possible recommendation on the proposed new rules at 16 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 8, Subchapter A. I recognize Mark Gladney again, the Assistant General Counsel. Mark.
Thank you very much. Good morning. As the presiding officer stated, this is a discussion and possible recommendation of the proposed rules at 16 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 84. Proposed new rule 84.3 and amendments to existing rules 84.44, 45, 84.50, 84.400, 84.500 through 84.506 and 84.600. Now, this rulemaking had two purposes. The first purpose of the rulemaking was to complete the implementation of House Bill 105 by requiring the curriculum of the specialized driver safety course to include information regarding methods of safely operating a motor vehicle near an oversized or overweight vehicle. The second purpose, which is the main purpose of this rulemaking, is to amend 16 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 85, subchapters A, C, D, L, M, and N to streamline and reduce the size of the rule chapter and efficiently organize and simplify the creation, distribution, and instruction of program curriculum by licensees. Now, the staff, in conjunction with the Curriculum Rules Work Group, created a plan by which we would reorganize the rule text that's currently in subchapter M and N into a format that would be more easily accessible and understanding it by transferring it into program guides. Now, in your packet, you were given both the rule text and the program guides for your review. And to that end, and the purposes I just spoke about, we drafted four department staff with the work group drafted 4 additional program guides to accompany the already existing program of organized instruction guide for the minor driver education courses to enable transfer of existing curriculum rule text into these separate publications. Now this is a big thing for us. We have a few other programs that have done something similar, but what we have done is we have created additional program guides in addition to the program of organized instruction, and we created the program guides as follows. The program of organized instruction for the adult 6-hour driver education course, the course of organized instruction for the driver safety course, the program of organized instruction for the drug and alcohol driving awareness course, and the course of organized instruction for the specialized driver safety course. Now, to be clear, this rulemaking only seeks to transfer the curriculum requirements from the rule chapter and put it in the program guides. The program guides will be incorporated into Chapter 84 and adopted by reference in accordance with the Secretary of State's directives. However, what you see in these proposed program guides are still rules. If there are going to be any amendments made to the program guides, we will still be required to go through the standard rulemaking process that I described at the beginning of the meeting when I was giving board training. Now, so as with other programs administered by the agency, we are just simply taking the rule text and putting it in an easier format for the licensees to use in their everyday operations. That's long and short of it. We're not recreating the wheel here. So today I'm going to point out some amendments made in this rulemaking, and myself and E&E staff will address any comments or questions you have prior to asking for your recommendation to publish the rule text and the program guides to the Texas Register for the general public to also offer their opinions. Now, I'm going to share my screen with regard to the rule text, and we'll talk about that first. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, starting with the new rule that we are proposing, and we're proposing this because it's a requirement under the Texas Secretary of State if we are adopting rules by reference, and in this case we would be adopting publications by reference. Those would be the program guides. So the guides again will have the force of rule, just like we have in our current rules. Now, in new 84.3, in subchapter A, materials adopted by reference, what we've done, we've identified the department-created driver education safety program guides containing the transferred rule text into these guides. Okay. We've also adopted these publications by reference in accordance with the Secretary of State rules at 1 Texas Administrative Code 91.40. And the purpose of this particular rule section will provide guidance to the licensees in the creation of DES course curriculum that's consistent with existing law and rule. So right now we're in 84.3. Does anyone have any questions or comments related to 84.3?
Go right ahead, Carlos.
Yes, Mark. Just to be clear, then by referencing to the program organized instruction, does that make the program organized instruction actual rule language?
Yes.
Okay.
What we've taken from the POI, and I assume you're talking about what we're calling it is the POI DE, and that would be for the teams.
Correct.
Okay. So what we did in there is when we did the curriculum rulemaking that just got adopted September 1, all that information that was related to those rules, that is being transferred into that particular program guide, and it has the force of rule.
Okay, thank you.
That goes for every other program guide that we've created. So if it's a POI adult 6 hour, the COI driving safety, the COI specialized driving safety, or the COI DAP, all those still have the same force as rule. Licensees are required to follow what's in those program guides. Okay. Any other questions on 84.3? Okay, we're going to move on to subchapter C and subchapter D. Now, in 84.44, all we did was we just made changes to the rules to update references to the new program guides. So right here under supervising teacher responsibilities, we put in the name of the program guide. We use the shorthand POIDE, which refers to the teen driving education course. And then, of course, dealing with the classroom phase of the POI adult 6 hour. Same thing here under the driver education teacher qualifications. And if you'll note, the rule changes that have been made here, if you look at the new rules that were just adopted September 1, 2020, we are working directly off of those newly adopted rules. So the only thing that's being added are the particular references to the new program guides, or as you'll see later on, we're removing certain portions of subchapter M and N because those portions are going right into the program guides. Any questions on 84.44, 45, or 50? Okay, I like that. I like that from y'all. Okay, we are moving to subchapter L then. If I can make this thing move faster. Okay. This thing doesn't want to move too much for me. Okay. I think I skipped 84.400, so let me roll back up again. Here we go. Okay, subchapter L, 84.400. The change that was made here was in reaction to the current pandemic, and that the governor has put out numerous executive orders that affects the DES program. And what we did is we expanded the department's ability to pursue enforcement actions if there is a violation of an executive order from the governor. Okay. We didn't have that before. We had some questions on whether or not we could do it. So we put that in there. So if a licensee were to violate an executive order from the governor, we could pursue enforcement actions against that licensee. Any questions on 84.400? Okay, moving on to subchapter M and N. And this is where most of the action occurred in this rulemaking. Now, 84.500, what we did, again, here in this portion right here under 84.500 B1C, just what we did is we made some changes to reference the new program guide.
Welcome to WebEx. Enter your access code or meeting number followed by pound.
Okay. As you see, we're referencing the actual program guide by its acronym. Same here in G, again in I. And I can get this to scroll faster.
Enter your access code or meeting number.
In this particular section is where we move into the adult 6 hour, and we reference that particular program guide for the POI adult 6 hour, and we are starting to delete.
You can join the meeting after the host admits you.
Is that me?
Mary Winston here. I'm not sure who that is, but I'm not sure. Nina, make sure you mute, and let's try again.
I can't get unmuted. I need to talk.
Okay. All right. We're in the the POI adult 6 hour section, and this is where we are starting to remove curriculum rule text. Okay. And this is where this rule text is going straight into the POI adult 6 hour program guide. So that is being removed there. And this is what you're going to see in other sections as well when we get there. Okay. Again, this is just reference to the particular areas in the adult POI 6 hour program guide. Are there any questions on 84.500 right now? Okay. Then we're going to move on to 84.501. As soon as I can get there. Okay, here we go. Okay, you won't see too much modification here, too much amendment here, since the AMI refers back to the POI DE. So you won't see very much there. Any questions on 84.501? Mostly in 84.501, again, we are referencing the new program guide, which in this case would be the POI-DE for the teen courses. Okay. Now, driving safety courses of instruction for driving safety. Again, the changes that are made here is going to be mainly removal of curriculum rule text. And here we go right here. Minimum course content, we are removing this minimum course content and putting it in the COI for driving safety program guide. That is what's going to be in there. And you're going to see the same thing for specialized driving safety and for the DAP. Any questions on this particular rule? Okay, hearing none, moving on. Okay, this specialized driving safety courses of instruction 84.503. And let's see here. Now, if you'll notice here in the section here in A1A, educational objectives, right here where it says safe operation of motor vehicle near oversized, overweight vehicles, that was a portion that we put in there in conjunction with HB 105 to complete the bill implementation for that particular piece of legislation. Okay, now moving on. Again, references to the new program guide, COI, specialized driving safety. And here we are in minimum course content. We are again removing the curriculum rule text. And it is heading right to that program guide. Any questions on this particular rule? Okay, I'm loving y'all. I'm just loving y'all.
This is Mr. Chair.
Yes, go right ahead, Nina.
Thank you. I've been having a terrible time with WebEx, so sorry, Mark, but I do have questions now that I can speak.
Okay.
So have we seen the final draft of those documents?
Yes, you have. We sent them to you. Pardon? Pardon?
I don't recall seeing the final drafts.
You mean of the program guides?
Correct.
The program guides were sent to the work group back in the spring. We made basically no changes at all to what they looked like back then. And then the program guides were again sent to you again about 10 days ago as part of your package.
Okay. I'll have to take a look.
Okay.
Because last time I looked, there were still some questions I had.
Well, remember we had an initial meeting on the rules and the program guides back in February 25th of this year. And then once we addressed the work group's issues, the program guides were all sent back out to the work group for comment. We didn't get any further changes from y'all. And then in the last 10 days, we sent you the program guides again, along with the rule text. Okay. Alrighty. I am getting a CPU usage is high warning. So I'm going to turn off my background. Okay, moving on to ADM for driving safety courses. Again, references to the particular program guides in here, and that's pretty much what it's going to be in this particular rule section. Okay. Any questions on 84.504? Okay, moving on to 84.505 for the DAP. And we should have some changes here that are taking curriculum rule text out of this particular rule section and putting it into the program guide. Here we go. So in this portion here, minimum program content, we are removing the curriculum rule text, and all of this information heads right to the program guide. This particular program guide is going to be a short one, as is specialized driving safety. The biggest one is going to be the POI DE, the teen driving course. That one's going to be the largest one. Okay. Any questions on this particular one, this rule? Okay, moving forward. And I believe 506. This is the ADM course for DAP. We won't have too many changes in here other than references to the particular program guide. Any questions on this one? Okay. And the last one, well, not the last one. Let's see. Yes, the last one. 84.600. We made significant changes to this particular rule. Again, removing the curriculum rule text.
Total times in each section, and the alcohol section is only 4 hours, which now removes the opportunity for any school to use the drug and alcohol driving awareness program in lieu of the alcohol section of their driver education course, because it is 6 hours. And I know it had been brought up numerous times of allotting extra time so that can happen, but I don't see where that has taken place, and that's going to take for the driver education courses, they're no longer going to be able to use that course if this goes forward.
Okay. And where are you on that one?
That'll be, I think, module 8, page 51.
Okay.
So you
It's
total
in the
time.
chart. It's in the chart.
Right, your total core time is 120 minutes. Does that mean that's required? You can't have any more?
Okay. Let's see. Shanesty? I'm gonna bring Shanesty in on this.
Hi, Mark. I'm sorry, I was chatting on the side. I don't recall that we made any changes to the alcohol, but we will double check that, Nina. I'm going through our records right now. The times that are in each section, it's just a minimum time. So you guys you would need to meet that time, or you can exceed that time.
But then the total time needs to say minimum time in each of the blocks, or we can't draw from another section. See what I'm saying?
Okay, so you're saying underneath there where it says the total time core is 120 minutes, and then over on the side it says lesson number and then the minimum time.
Right. So
Okay.
what is total time core? What does that mean? Because people are going to take that as all they can use for that module.
Right. I understand what you're saying. Okay.
Could we solve
Shouldn't that
that?
say,
We
excuse
can
me.
just,
Yeah,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead. This is Carl Schraner. Shouldn't that say core minimum time?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, this is Mark Gladney. What we can do for that is just core 120 minutes, either in parentheses minimum or core minimum time 120 minimum. Would that be satisfactory?
As long as it's minimum, and it'd have to be in each of them because, well, that still doesn't work. This is a minimum of 120 minutes, and you go to module 9, it's a minimum of 120 minutes. I can't draw from another section to get the number of hours for this section. Because you've got a core minimum of 120 minutes, that's only 2 hours. But you've got 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You've got 6 hours of minimum time, but your core time is 120. That's going to be very confusing to everybody. And if you add up under minimum time, that is 6 hours. But your core time says 120.
Hi, this is Shan. I just wanted to make a comment. So I'm looking at, we didn't change any of the times. I'm looking at the old POI and compared to the new module, I'm sorry. So we would just need to change that language, Mark, and just make sure that it just says minimum time across the board. We could even, like where it says the total core time, you can say 120, but like Nina is saying, we want to make sure that the customer, whoever is applying, knows that it's just a minimum time.
Okay.
And I felt like your suggestion would have been fine.
But if you put minimum 120 in each of them,
This is Carl Schraner. Yeah, it seems like it recommended would allow us to make the changes where it's a minimum, while yeah, for the alcohol we can say a minimum, but that again you can't draw from the others if you have minimum for all of them.
well, if you have 12 modules at a minimum of 120, that's 2 hours each. That's 24 hours. So that gives you 8 hours to play with. Is that what you're saying?
Shan?
Hi, sorry about that. I'm just trying to get organized. Yes, that's what they were trying to do, was just give you guys a little extra time to play with the extra minutes.
Okay, so we've got 11, which is 22 hours. And then the 6 hours in 1 is 28. So that gives 4 extra hours. Okay.
Does that work?
This is Carlos Rain again. Yeah, it has to be flexible because, like in the case of when we had to add the information about law enforcement and now the interacting with large vehicles, we've got to be able to pull from some other module, in order to have time to cover what we're statutorily being required to cover.
Correct. And that was our thought process when doing this. Because we know that there will be more items coming in that will probably be added to what you guys have to teach in your school. So we wanted to open it up to allow you. That's why we removed recommended and just had a minimum, and that, like I said before, you could pull those hours from, you would have a couple of hours from each section. You could use those in whichever section that you needed to. I believe all of those except for module 1, if I'm not mistaken. But
Well, see, module 1 would be the one that would have the minimum time has to be 6 hours, but the rest of them need to stay with the recommended, because that allows us the flexibility. The more minimums we have, the less we have that we can move around and shuffle around.
okay, so it sounds like this is not something that we could probably squash out right now, because then we'd have to go back to the team and then review those times.
This is Mark. What if we went with the recommendation to just simply put recommended time? Would that take care of the problem?
Nina, what do you think? I think yes, as long as we left the minimum for the 6 hours traffic law section, because we have to have that to get the learner's license, but the rest recommended is flexible enough to work.
What do you feel the difference is between the two, recommended and minimum? Before it was recommended, it was recommended 360 hours for this section. 360 minutes, I'm so sorry. 360 minutes for this section, module 8.
Well, the problem with that is not all schools are using the DAP program to give them 6 hours. Our schools are using just what we do, actually 4 hours.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. What if we went with minimum, because there are going to be some enforcement issues related to if we go with recommended. We can't properly enforce recommended.
So we would go with minimum and then figure out the time in between, or the time slots for those.
Right. There's a problem in that. I think we lost Nina again, because I've scrolled across looking for her and she's nowhere to be found.
Mary Winston here. Yes, we are trying to get Nina back on. She's struggling with some connection issues. So can the conversation continue, or do we need to put a pin in it? What do we, oh, so she's getting back in. I'm getting messages in the background. So she should be coming back up. There she is. Nina, can you hear us? Oh, and her sound is not here. Nina, you don't appear to be muted, but we're having audio issues. Presiding officer, would it be okay for us to take a 5-minute break to just see if we could kind of get everyone connected?
Absolutely, that's a great idea. Before we do that, Nina, can you do me a favor if you can hear me? Can you mute and unmute again, just to cycle through? I think it's a glitch with the computer. We can see your lips moving, but we can't hear anything. Can you mute and then unmute? See if that works. That usually does it. No, mute and unmute.
We're still out there. We're working on it in the background, Rick. So if you can give us just a few minutes.
Yes, of course. Let's do that. Let's just pause. I don't think we need to take a break, do we?
Okay.
Yeah, we can just hang right here.
Is there a way that Mark and Shan can continue, or do we need to just pause right here?
Well, I'd like to get, this is Mark. I'd like to get some clarification, at least with regard to the modules other than module 1, as to whether or not putting in the term minimum will solve this particular issue. Carlos?
I can see it if we do like we've done with the driving safety courses where we gave ourselves certain minimums, but then we allowed X amount of time that can be used for whatever topic that we want to interject in one of the other modules, you see.
Okay, so there may be some situations in which if you put a minimum time of 120 minutes for a module, you might not be able to get to 120 minutes. Is that what you're saying?
It kind of, when it gives me a minimum, it forces me to spend 120 minutes is what it's doing. And so that's why Nani was saying we need more time for the alcohol for those schools using the DAP program, doing a 6-hour program, and they get a certificate that gives them an additional insurance discounts. And so that's valuable to the customer. But if we lock ourselves into minimums everywhere, I say we have to have minimums, yes, but I think we need to leave a general, say, 180 minutes or 240, whatever time we need to be able to pull from, to be able to put them into whatever module we want to put them into.
I'm just scrolling up to the previous module. I want to look at that chart real quick.
Hello?
Nina, we can hear you.
Don't leave me, Nina.
So that one in module 7 is 120 minutes too.
Yeah, module 2 through 12 are 120 minutes.
Okay. So what would you want to adjust the other modules that aren't necessarily going to be at that minute level, so you can have some extra time at the end of the course to draw from? I'm not.
Well, if we leave 11 of the modules at 120, that's 2 hours. So that'd be 22 hours, correct?
Yes.
Then module 1 is 6, so that gives us 28 hours. So there's 4 hours already there to play with. So you take those 4 hours and you can put it anywhere you want. And if people are using the drug and alcohol driving awareness program, they could put it in module 8. But if somebody designs their course just by those core hours, then they're going to be short 4 hours. I think there needs to be a description of the core hours total up this many hours. You need to find a place for the other 4.
Carlos ran again. Yeah, we have to have language saying that the time remaining must be inserted into the program somewhere.
I'm just wondering whether or not something of that nature may be in the rule text that wasn't sent over there.
Mark, I don't think that was in driver's ed.
Driver's ed. We had it in driving safety, but I don't think we had any language like that in driver's ed. Because it was always recommended and anybody could, use those 32 hours how they seem fit, how they saw fit.
I'm just, this is Mark. I'm just concerned that if we go recommend that, if there's an inspection or an audit, we can't necessarily enforce, recommend it. We can enforce minimum.
Right, and I think it works. I think I'm just asking maybe in the introduction somewhere that the core hours total this, the remaining number of hours or minutes, however you want to say it, use that language that we have from driving safety and put it in the introduction. The remaining time must be placed in modules 2 through, because they don't need to place it in 1, so it'll be 2 through 11.
Okay.
This is Carlos Reyna. Don't we have language stating that it has to be a 32-hour course?
That's going to be in the rule. I'm going to go back. I'm going back to the rule text real quick. I can find it. Where the heck is the rule text?
Mr. Chairman?
And I apologize for my credit problems. My third computer here.
Mr. Chairman, might I suggest that this be worked out through the committee, the small committee? I mean, right now it sounds like we have a lot of stuff to look at. Maybe we could look at it in the smaller group.
Right, have the work group.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Carlos Reyna. I concur with that. That's a good suggestion, Kevin.
Mr. Chairman, this is David Bruce. I do too. This is so important. I would hate to miss something on this one.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Mark, where does that put us then? I know that you wanted to recommend to get this published. Sounds like we need to hold off and get these numbers right. What do you recommend?
Well, I mean, we did have a timetable, but yeah, I was just kind of wondering because you know, we had sent this to the work group before, and I guess we're just kind of wondering, you know.
And those were my same concerns previously.
And they are important.
Yeah, I remember receiving comments from her, and yeah, they were voiced.
Let me ask you this. Can we go forward on the other 4 program guides and the rule text and then bring this the POI-DE back to the work group?
So we're basically, then we would just recommend the rest to be presented for viewing, but not this one here. You're talking about the POIDE is going to be left off, correct?
Right. The POI-DE would be left off, but we would ask for a recommendation on the other 4 program guides and the rule text.
And there's already a POI on the website that the industry can currently use. So we would still have that one. It doesn't get removed until we come to an agreement on this one.
Okay. Committee members, what do y'all think?
I concur with that.
Is this the only issue? Go ahead, Kevin.
I think it's the best thing to do at this point.
Absolutely. Members, anybody else? Any comments?
Has the board, the other board members been able to look at the other documents?
You mean the other 4, Nina?
Right. Outside of the
POI for the driver's ed is what we do not want to recommend. We need to look at that. Obviously we do. But the other 4, I'm curious if we can move forward with that, get those published. Members, anybody have any comments?
Mr. Chairman, David Bruce here. I do have a question, please. From the TDLR standpoint, for the other 4, there were no changes other than removing them and putting into a separate document. Is that a correct statement?
Yes. That's exactly what they're doing. In layman's term, Mark, that's exactly what they're doing. We're not adding any rules. Obviously, we can't. We're just moving them from one place to the other.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not entirely sure I understood your question.
Yes, Mr. Bruce had asked that on the other 4 that we might consider today to be published, all we're really doing is moving them from one area to another. It's really all we're doing.
Correct.
Thank you for your
In fact, we're doing it with the POIDE, but apparently we're having a little timing issue here as well.
Mr. Chairman, Glenn, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, my concern now is I went over the POIs for the other 4, but now that this has been noticed with the DE, now I feel like I have to go back over them again to look at the modules to make sure that all the times on the other ones are correct.
Mary Winston here, TDLR. If this is, I'm going to kind of just look at how this is drafted as far as an agenda item, not the rule. So possible recommendations. So we've had a very thorough discussion and the board members can vote. This is where we're getting that discussion and we're going to move forward with a vote. And if the board feels that we can push on minus the information in question, or was it Mr. I don't remember which board member said they need to go back. I think Glenn. Or if you're feeling you need some more time, if we need to reconvene, that's just what we'll have to do. But at this point, we just want to make sure that the board has that opportunity to speak.
This is Mark. I would also point out that if we are going to leave the POIDE out of this particular out of any motion, then we would probably need to at least remove the rule text that references the POIDE, or alternatively, if there are questions about all 5 guides at this point, then we're probably just going to have a work group meeting and just I'm not sure who mentioned it, whether it was Glenn or David. We just go back and have another work group meeting on all 5 guides.
Well, I am going to, members, it sounds like, I agree. We're looking at this one here. Glenn, you're wondering what might have maybe been left out. We want to review. I think I might recommend, I would even consider a motion to delay the possible recommendation on everything, Mark. Unfortunately, added to the agenda item for the next time.
Mr. Chairman, this is Carlos Reyna. Kelly had a question. Go ahead, Kelly.
Mr. Chairman, I do want to make one point, and maybe this needs to be brought up in the work group. Can we go back to page 7, subchapter L, complaints and enforcement provisions, Mark? The way that is drafted, I want to make sure that you added in there or an executive order of the governor for the state of Texas. According to the Texas Government Code, that authority comes under Chapter 418 of the Government Code, and specifically Section 418.173 provides for a penalty for violation of emergency management plan. But this is written very broadly and does not reference Chapter 418. So in essence, I don't believe you have the authority to for a violation unless you specifically cite that you're talking about Chapter 418, because you're talking about provisions under the emergency orders, unless I'm missing something. And then also I want to point out the way it's written, you need to add semicolons and remove the first or, because you have 2 ors in there where you added that. So it should say, if a person or entity violates any provision of the Texas Education Code, Chapter 1001, semicolon, instead of comma, Texas Transportation Code, Chapter 521, semicolon, this chapter, semicolon, strike the or, any rule or order of the executive director or commission, semicolon, and you have the language or an executive order of the governor for the state of Texas. At the end, you reference Texas Education Code Chapter 1001, Texas Occupations Code Chapter 51, and associated rules. I think you have to reference Government Code Chapter 418 in order for that to be legal. The governor can't just willy-nilly issue an executive order changing law, but they can issue an executive order under the laws afforded under Chapter 418 of the Government Code.
Mary Winston, TDLR. Thank you, Michael. It looks like we have more questions that have come up. And so at this point, I think, Carlos, that, or Chairman, you said postponing the recommendation. You don't have to postpone the recommendation. You can just not make it because it just says possible recommendation. And everyone who has comments, I need you to send them in. I want to have like one box. If you can send them into advisory.boards and we can get all that together to get to Mark, because we would prefer just one channel so we don't have Shan getting some, Mark getting some for all these. And then we can reconvene, Mark, I'm thinking, Shan, another work group so we can kind of iron this out. But we want to make sure we get all, Michael, Kelly, your recommendations. Nina, you always are a wealth of knowledge. Everyone who has something, just send it back into the advisory.boards email, and then we can disseminate that to the work group so they can proceed and work out these things. So at this point, I'm apologize for interrupting, but Chairman Benavides, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Michael, you had another comment or question? Okay. Thank you so much. Well, then, I guess that's it. Mark, I'm going to leave it to you to assign the work to the work group. You'll let us know. We obviously need to talk about this. Some more. There are a lot of questions. Please take Mary Winston's advice and forward that information to the specific email that she mentioned, and I appreciate that. Anything else on this one? Mark?
No, I don't have anything else, presiding member. We'll get a work group convened as quickly as possible to address the issues that have been brought up, and then we'll try to get a meeting rescheduled as quickly as possible.
Of course. I recommend highly, of course, committee members to look at that information. Mark, you know what? Can you do me a big favor? Is there any way you could send us that one more time? Nice little fresh copy of what you guys are looking at. Email it to all the members so that we can look it over. I want to make sure that we're all looking at the same thing. And
okay, so you want the program guides and the rule text again?
Please.
Okay, yeah, okay, I'll resend that, but you do have that in your current packets.
And I'm aware of that, and I appreciate it. I just want to make sure that when you send it out to everybody, we know that we're all looking at the same thing. And
I'm going to make one more request, Chairman. Mark, tell us what to send out, and we will send that out from the advisory.boards at tdlr.texas.gov. So we can just, yeah, we'll resend whatever you want us to resend.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
You want me to tell you now, or you want later on?
I do not. I think I understand what they're wanting, and we just need to resend. And anyone can email me or email the group, but I think we know what we're resending, and it's basically the packet of information that was sent out today because Michael Kelly has brought in. We have so many Michaels, that's why I keep saying your whole name, Michael. That he's brought up something from a specific page, so we want to resend the documentation. Chairman, am I correct with that? That the things that were the information for this agenda item, we just want to resend it.
Please, thank you so much, Mary.
Okay.
Right, and that this is Mark Ladney. That would be the information that was sent out in the packet by board support about a week or 10 days ago.
That is it, Mark. We're going to send that information again.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Anything else, Mark?
No, I don't have anything else at this point.
Perfect. I'm going to move on to the next item, agenda item I, recommendations for next agenda items for our next meeting. And this will be one of them. We definitely can throw this in. You'll be sending us information on the work groups. So the committee members, anybody have any recommendations on any agenda items? This one specifically, obviously. Anything else that we want to add on there? David, you look like you're going to ask something.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Getting it off mute. I would like to add on, if possible, if there's any update or communication between the TDLR and the Sunset Commission, just anything else. That's such a hot topic to put that on the agenda as well, please.
Fantastic. Thank you, David. It's giving us a thumbs up there. Great.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Kevin, you're thinking. Good, good. Okay. Fantastic. If there's no more recommendations for agenda items, then we're just going to move on to discuss time and date of our next meeting. And I think that was kind of up in the air. Delia, do we know anything? Any recommendations on time?
No, sir. I will wait until Mark schedules a work group meeting, and then once he lets me know when we're ready, to poll the board, I will be happy to do that for the next meeting for the rules.
Most likely it'll be next year, I'm assuming. You don't know? Okay.
This is Mark. I will be contacting the members of the curriculum work group in the next day or so, and polling you for dates for a meeting.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Anybody have any comments or questions, anything before we adjourn?
This is Nina. And I'm still stuck on the POI, but the in-car instruction, should I just hold off till the work group, or?
Right, it'll be discussed.
Because I'm very confused on the times on the in-car instruction also.
This is Mark Gladney. Nina, let's hold off on that and talk at the work group.
Okay.
Fantastic. Yes, Michael.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, for those of us not on the work group, do you want us just to send the comments to the advisory board email and then that'll be forwarded to the work group? Is that okay?
Yes, please.
Perfect, Michael. Perfect.
That's a great recommendation. Thank you, Michael. Absolutely. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. Mark, for your work. Mary, of course, Delia, for taking care of everything. Staff members, it's great to see you guys again, of course, committee members. I guess we're officially adjourned. It is 12:38. Thank you. And have a good